I'm Chris McDonough, a retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Hey, everybody, aloha, and good evening. You know, that last part where Buddy comes in, sitting there, absolutely cracks me up every time I see that. It's great to see you all here this evening. Hopefully, we can spend a little time together and just chat it up a little bit about this week. It has absolutely been one crazy week. One crazy week. I think we would all agree on that one for sure. Can you hear me okay? Can give me a one if you can hear me okay. I just want to make sure that we're tuning in correctly here. I have some better Wi-Fi, but as you guys know, the last couple of weeks it's been a little wonky, but hopefully I've got it all grounded out here. Okay, looks like the picture's a little fuzzy. Sorry, little Leia. Okay, so it looks like everybody's, we're on track here tonight. We're on track. Boy, lots to cover tonight. So I just want to kind of decompress the whole week and just kind of, figure out, what your thoughts are, what your thoughts have been about this week. And then simultaneously, kind of dive into, each of these cases a little bit, spend a little time on each of them. We're going to talk about, whether or not Lori is 5150. Which means in the old California Health and Safety Code, 5150 means wackadoodle. Okay, and then the next case, obviously, we're gonna dive into a little bit about Barry and his new outfit, and then talk maybe a little bit about his attorneys as well. And thank you, LaShawn, for becoming a member. Grateful to have you here. And by the way, folks, our memberships are available, but if you cannot afford anything like that, don't worry about it. Okay, just the fact that you're here with us on this channel is enough, and that's the way I like to roll here. So everybody is welcome. We're grateful that you are here, and we thank you for your support. And the next case we want to talk about, obviously, is Maya and any progress being made there. And then I had an interesting talk today, believe it or not, with Eddie Adamson, or Emerson, with Kelly Brannan's case over in Jacksonville, Florida. And he and I talked for about a half hour on the phone, and hopefully I can get him on as a guest. We chatted it up a little bit, and he's kind of a little shy about coming back into the YouTube environment, but hopefully we can encourage him to take that step forward to help with Kelly's case. So in the U.S., obviously, and that's Buddy in the background. You can hear him. He's shaking his little toy. Come here, Bud, you nut job. I love you. He's wrestling me below my office chair here. So if you hear him, then you know that's what's going on in the background, little Bud. In the U.S., obviously, this is Memorial Day weekend, where we honor all of our veterans who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. And we're grateful for all of you as well who have served this country. But Memorial Day is reserved for those who have actually died for our freedom. So love to each of you families out there who may be members of the military community who have lost a loved one. Much respect given to you this Memorial holiday, and we're grateful for you. So that said, let's start off this tonight. Just kind of let's talk about Lori a little bit, right? Lori Daybell. And then we'll talk about, like I said, Suzanne, but let's talk about Lori first. Boy, what a crazy, crazy week this was, right? So she gets charged, obviously, as we all know, with murder. And then her defense attorney throws, a wrench into the mix. As I had previously mentioned, that behind the scenes there was probably a lot of psychological evaluation taking place. But one of the interesting things that obviously we learned this week about Miss Vallow is the fact that she was deemed mentally incompetent to stand trial. Well, that's pretty interesting because now the burden is shifted to a bunch of doctors to basically level set her mental condition in relationship to if she is able to stand trial at some point. Now, here's the good news, okay? Idaho does not have a statute of insanity. So the best card that they could play was this diminished capacity or mental incompetence to stand trial because, in Idaho, because they don't have a statute that says you can use insanity as a defense. What they can do is stall the individual going to trial by giving this mental incompetency test. And so I think that's what's at play here. So it looks like Lori is playing like, she's not wrapped real tight, okay, i.e., she doesn't understand what those charges mean. So behind the scenes, a defense doctor came to the play and said, well, Your Honor, she's just not, she's not wrapped real tight right now. And so therefore, she doesn't understand all the charges against her. So as a result of that, many folks now, kind of raised their hands and said, what? And I was one of them. But at the same time, I also made a comment probably about 7 or 8 months ago that watch out for Chandler, because Chandler is coming. Now, the interesting thing about Chandler, though, is they do have an insanity capability. So you can plead insanity, but the burden of proof is going to be on the defense to prove that their client was insane. So what I want to do tonight is talk about the 4 types of insanity defenses. And I had a case in, 1998 as an example. A little boy was brutally murdered in a bathroom down in Southern California, and I was the case agent. And his name was Matthew Checky. The suspect in that case, a young man by the name of Brandon Wilson, immediately raised the red flag that he was insane. Okay. Well, that insanity defense has to fall under one of 4 categories. So I've put a little slide presentation together. And so, Dillan, if you could put up that slide presentation real fast. Okay, so let's talk about the 4 types of insanity defenses. Now, if you're new to our channel, my background is I spent, over 13 years in homicide and just about 25 years in law enforcement. And I train law enforcement, quite frankly, around the country right now through the Cold Case Foundation. So most of my work is active. We're still working with law enforcement behind the scenes and helping them through some of these cold cases across the nation. So the first insanity defense that I want to talk about tonight is what's called the Mcnaughton Sanity Defense. And if you could show the first slide, Jill. Okay, so this first slide, and can you blow that up, pal? make that a little bit larger. Hey, so the Mcnaughton defense is basically the insanity rule is basically the right or wrong test. Now, for the record, obviously, I am not a doctor. I don't claim to be. That's for somebody else. They're much smarter than me. However, I have arrested these guys and put a set of matching bracelets on them, and of course, the Mcnaughty Defense or the Mcnaughton Defense. I call it the Mcnaughty, but it's the Mcnaughton is how it's pronounced. Is actually the first game that they try to play. So basically, what it means is you must have a mental disease or defect of the mind, and then you have to add two ingredients, and you have to have one of these two ingredients, and these are what they would call the elements of the crime, right, or of the defense. So the first ingredient would be the inability to know the nature or quality of the criminal act, or that the criminal act was wrong. So this is why the Mcnaughton criminal defense or insanity defense always gets brought up first as the quote right or wrong defense. Okay. And so once you have one of those two elements, then the insanity defense would equal a not guilty verdict if the individual was to be put on trial. Okay. So Dillan, bring me back in for a second. So let's give a couple of examples of this. Okay. The first example, we'll use Susan Smith as an example. Okay. She's a mother, she makes all these decisions. She puts her kids in her car. Okay. She drives them 17, 18 minutes. If you've not had a chance to see that recreation, go see it, because this would be an example of her attorney saying, look, this would fall under the Mcnaughton insanity defense. Okay. And then at that point, okay, she would drive the kids into the water and the kids would be, out of service. Okay. So now that would be argued in a pretrial hearing of competency is what the hearing's called. Whether or not Miss Smith, Susan Smith, who's up for parole in 2024, by the way, let's make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, she's wackadoodle, but she's not insane. Okay, and the courts even found that. Okay, but this would be a good example of that. Okay, now let's take the same person who is diagnosed as schizophrenia. Okay, she's been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and now she's hearing voices and she's hearing or doing things that her mental capacity is just not connected correctly. Okay, so the difference there is one can pretend they're nuts, okay, and mentally ill, okay, and another has to actually be mentally ill. So in that case, you would have the defense have their doctors, and then of course the second half is the prosecution would have their doctors. But remember, what Lori Vallow is doing here is not an insanity defense. Okay? She's trying to go for a diminished capacity, which means this. Can she get enough doctors to say that she cannot understand the scope of everything that's taking place, which relates to her charges, which gives her the capability to defend herself against those charges? So the question is going to be her state of mind in relationship to, does she understand the charges against her? And is she capable, okay, is she capable of writing notes, for lack of a better term, and this is just an analogy, for writing notes and sending them over to her attorney to, ask these types of questions to this particular witness. So that's what's going on in her particular scenario here. So let's go to the next one, Dill. Okay, so the next one is what they call the irresistible impulse insanity defense. Okay, and in this one, also you need to have a mental disease or a defect of the mind. And that's a key word, defect of the mind. Okay. And in this one here, you have to now add the inability to know nature or quality of the criminal act, which means, did the knife go on full auto? And if it did you know it was on full auto when you were stabbing 114 times? Okay. That is the inability to know that. Okay. Or that the criminal act was right or wrong. Okay. Or inability to control the conduct while you were committing the crime. If that irresistible impulse can be shown or proven in an insanity, then an insanity defense could result in a non-guilty verdict. Now, here's where this is going to play. It's only going to play when Chandler files murder charges against Lori and Chad, okay, for Charles's death. Okay. Now I said this 6 or 7 months ago. Don't hold your breath. I have, in fact, I think I had put $100 bingo card on Chandler PD back in the day. So I'm still going to stay with that. And I think that if what she's doing now in Idaho, because Idaho does not have a statute for insanity, then she's laying the foundation to say, hey, I already told you in Idaho I was wackadoodle, so therefore I must still be wackadoodle here in Arizona. And so then when she gets a new defense team over there, potentially, okay, then and bring up one of these defenses. So let's go to the third one. And this one is called substantial capacity. Okay. And this one here is really interesting because, again, the first element is always mental disease or a defect of the mind. Okay. So these folks, it's sad for some of them because they really don't have the capacity to know what time it is or what's going on. So that's why the system is in. That's why we have the great system that we do to take these individuals and to give them, this capability, i.e., they send them to them, to get treated, because they do have a mental illness. The wires just aren't connected correctly. And, some people are like that. And, God bless their souls because they don't choose to be like that. Trust me, I think we all know that as a whole. Okay. But in this one, where substantial capacity is an insanity defense, they have to lack substantial capacity to appreciate the criminal conduct or to conform their conduct to the law. So they have to the elevator doesn't go to the top floor, okay, for lack of a better analogy, okay? And each of these capacities, they have to then understand that, okay, I don't quite get it, so therefore, how did I know, okay, that any of this was going to result in the actions that I took? So, young kids who can't form the specific intent to commit a crime, yet, they may have some learning disability. They could potentially fall into this category. And then, of course, the last one, which we don't have to really worry about, other than if you're in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is what they call the Durham in insanity defense. And that is basically mental disease and then criminal conduct, adding those two together. You theoretically, they can argue in the state of New Hampshire that this was a insanity problem. Now, bear in mind, okay, Dale, you can put me back in. Bear in mind that each of these defenses is, or the insanity defense, has variances throughout each of the 50 states. So, but the Mcnaughton is pretty much common through the 50 states of America, with the exception of Idaho. Okay. And so you really have to have this paranoia. And so I want to read the statute in Idaho I pulled it up a little bit ago. It says mental condition is not a defense. Provisions for treatment during incarceration, a reception, it could be as a reception of evidence, notice and appointment of expert examiners to determine mental condition, but this shall not be a defense to any charge of criminal conduct. So basically, what's happening here is Lori is using this diminished capacity to buy time. Okay? So we now have to ask ourselves, okay, well, what is she buying time for? And I would submit to you tonight that, this diminished capacity is different, obviously, than an insanity defense. Okay, so it's imperfect. It's an imperfect failure of proof of a defense. And this is recognized by very few jurisdictions, but Idaho happens to be one of them. Okay? So essentially, what she's doing is she's pushing, the system as far as they can get it, and this is a defense strategy. Okay, and so her lawyer, to that person's, credit, is doing their job. And so what they want to do is put her into the system with all these doctors, and the doctors are going to talk about all the porta potties and all the the hallucinations or alleged zombies and all of this stuff. Okay, and they're going to show a delusion. Okay, well, that delusion is then going to be mirrored over, does she have the capacity to understand the charges against her? Well, if she's out there seeing zombies, currently in her head, or believes she's seeing zombies, and she's made that evident. She made that evidence through Charles, obviously, and Chandler on that body-worn video, to that officer, that, she's just not, the elevator's not going to the top floor there. Okay? So as a result of that, what the courts have done, and correctly, in my opinion, they stepped in and they said, time out for a minute. Let's put her in front of professionals who can, sit down with her and do a diagnosis. Okay. So the defense now did that, and now the prosecution's going to have an opportunity to do that. And the prosecution's office is going to send in their doctors. And there's some really great doctors out there. One, probably one of the world's renowned is Dr. Park Dietz. Dr. Park Dietz is out of LA. I had the privilege of working some cases with him. Dr. Larry Simons out of Florida is also another great guy. And these guys are top shelf in forensics, diagnosis. Okay. And actually, Dr. Judy Ho is also another one who is a forensics, psychologist. So these doctors, or folks like them, will be brought in, and they'll do a battery of tests, with Lori. And of course, if Lori's, true to nature, she's going to talk all about, zombies and everything else, right? And, hope that it sticks. So that will then put her in another category. Now, there's one thing to be crazy. Okay? And this is another thing for all of us to understand. There's one thing to be nutty, okay, or eccentric, or just weird. Okay. It's another thing to absolutely 100% be 5150, i.e., they can't handle them, they can't take care of themselves, they can't take care of others, and they're a danger to themselves. Okay. That is a whole different category, i.e., nut jobs. Okay, and just wackadoodle to where the insanity defense could potentially be played, or diminished capacity of some sort. Okay, it is not against the law, okay, or against the evidence, or against presenting yourself in court as being nuts. Okay, now, because the human spirit is capable of doing some pretty nutty things. Okay? But it doesn't mean you're insane. Okay? It just means that you have learned how to manipulate the system. Okay? And I'll reflect on an interview I had. I interviewed a gentleman in Walla Walla State Prison many years ago, 1992. Actually, I was the last interview before he was executed by the state of Washington. His name was Wesley Allen Dodd. And Wesley Allen Dodd was a serial child killer. And I spent about 6.5 hours with him and learning about some of his tactics for my job at the time. And now this guy was an absolute pure evil. Now there is evil, in my opinion, and then there's pure evil. Okay. Lori, quite frankly, I mean, anybody who can just, let her kids, let that happen to their children, they're in that other pure evil, category. Okay. And then, potentially having, the fact that these children were so brutally murdered the way that they were, and then their bodies desecrated. I mean, that's pure evil. Okay. But where I measure that against Wesley Allen Dodd, Dodd was killing children. Okay. But he was doing it as kind of, for sexual gratification. Okay? Lori is killing children for financial gratification, and or they're in the way. It's a problem. Okay. I think the zombie stuff is going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but I don't know of any religious correlation that, any religion connects to zombies. Okay. I just say that's, one too many video games. Okay? So I think part of this is a little, cuckoo, but at the same time, she was able to make decisions. And this is where the right and wrong Mcnaughty test potentially could come in. Did she buy an airline ticket? Yes. Did she buy a wedding ring, or at least make plans for the wedding? Yes. And each one of these decisions is a conscious decision, okay, that shows she's still thinking logically, okay? And as long as the prosecution can show that Miss Lori is thinking logically with Mr. Chad, okay, well, then the zombie thing becomes almost, Frank cuts his lawn at 3:00 in the morning. He's just not wrapped real tight. Okay. Well, Lori, okay, sees zombies on, Sunday afternoon at church. Lori's not clicking on all cylinders. Okay. But did I tell you Lori's getting married next week? Well, how do you know that, Chris? Because she told me all about it. Okay. You see, those are the problems. And here's one of the other really interesting things I think is going to come bite her. And I hope the prosecution uses it. Remember when that great reporter in Idaho, Nate, went to Hawaii? I love that guy, right? He goes to Hawaii, but one of the key indicators of whether or not she knew right or wrong was when he asked the question and put the microphone in front of her. Did you kill your children? Or do you know where your children are? Okay. What did she do? Zippo. Didn't say a word. Okay. Now that is a thought process. Okay. And so that, believe it or not, is behavioral evidence. Okay. And that evidence could come into trial to show that she is capable of knowing right from wrong. Okay. And that's just one example of many examples that all of us have experienced and watched these people, all these decisions being made. Look at Chad across the street while they're searching the house. Okay. Him coming outside and making a conscious decision to see what they're doing. Okay. All of those conscious decisions, I would submit to you that the prosecution's going to argue, and that at some point, they're going to have an uphill battle, with Miss Vallow. So the good news is Chandler's coming. I knew they would. Kudos to Chandler PD for that homicide coming down the block. Okay, so I'm going to come back to some questions here in a little bit. So I want to give a shout out to everybody here. You're all of our mods. We certainly love you. We can't do this without you. Each and every one of you, I'm grateful for that. And all of our friends that are here visiting with us for the first time. Hopefully, you have a good time with us here. We have an amazing true crime community here that, quite frankly, I just, they're just some really, really smart people in our chats over here, and I'm grateful for that as well. And also, I want to give a shout out to all of our members here. I haven't been doing a good job yet of figuring out how to do the best member program, but I am working on it. Forgive me, but I promise I'll get better at it. I promise, and I appreciate your patience with me. Okay, so let's talk about Suzanne now for a second, just shifting. So, man, was this a good week or what? Okay, and we've got Mr. Barry. He, by the way, he looks great in his tiger suit. Love the fact that he got to select orange. That is it's an interesting look for him. Okay, but it is a look. And the fact that his defense attorneys, we got a chance to see them here. I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't impressed. The fact that they just kind of threw out the blanket, and I went over this week. I didn't think that was, quite frankly, anything that, somebody right out of law school couldn't do. I just think it was really interesting that they threw, the kitchen sink at the prosecution, right up to, oh, by the way, if you can provide, recorders, that would be interesting. So we'll see how that's going to play out for Barry. That's usually never a good sign. And what I think the bigger piece of evidence that we heard about this week was the potential biological evidence that's sitting in a lab somewhere. And that could be all kinds of, stuff. Or it could be enough to show that it's connected to Suzanne as a whole. I'm going to go with that. And the other piece of that is the fact that they went after the witnesses already who haven't even gone on the stand yet. The defense asked that the prosecution, basically provide any type of, negative information about potential witnesses who will testify, i.e. criminal conduct, or anything to that effect. And all that will be used for is to try to impeach that witness of, through credibility. Okay. Well, that works fine in the movies, but in real life, when you're talking about, these types of murders, if Barry's surrounding himself with people with criminal records, well, then how does that reflect on Barry's character? Okay. All of us have made mistakes in our life, every one of us. I certainly am not perfect. Okay. Just ask my wife. Okay. And I've hung around with a lot of criminals, believe it or not. I spent years and years doing it. In fact, I still do in terms of my job. Okay. That doesn't mean all criminals are bad people. It means they make mistakes. Okay. Now, there are evil criminals, and Miss Laurie's one of them, and Barry's one of them. Okay. Those people kill people. Okay. I don't hang around with those people. Okay. But, if somebody has a drug problem or an alcohol problem or something to that effect, you'd be surprised. Okay. What got them there? Thank you, LM. You're very kind. That you'll be surprised. I think we all will be surprised of what got them there. Okay. One of my jobs early in my career, I was a vice detective for over 2 years, and I worked undercover. And I worked with all these young ladies, these women who were victims of horrific abuse as children, a lot of them. And they did not choose to get into the scenario that they were in. And then ultimately alcohol and or drugs took over. And they're still trying to force themselves out of it. But these are human beings. Okay. There are other people that make conscious decisions to hurt other people. And those are narcissistic, evil people. And Lori, quite frankly, falls into that category, as does Barry. Okay. Suzanne did not. Okay. And thank you, Koopy. Appreciate that. Okay. So let's keep that in mind about how when the defense asked for, those types of records to reveal themselves, because quite frankly, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'm going to say it's going to be Morgan Gentile, maybe Jeff Puckett, maybe Cassidy Cordova. Okay. All these players with inside of the inner circle of Barry Morphew. Okay. Well, yeah, let's put them on trial. And then the next piece of that puzzle is going to be the government, i.e. the cops and the DA, as well as CBI, FBI, and, the sheriff's department. Those guys are going to go on trial. Okay. And so you're going to have, Barry sitting over here in a nice suit and tie. Okay. And you're going to have his defense attorneys trying to pick apart technicalities. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's good. That's what they do. Okay. That's what they're supposed to do. And, good luck with that on this one. Because if there's biological fluid, then that's going to be speaking for Suzanne. Okay. And all those experts are going to speak for Suzanne. Okay. And so I'm going with, the fact that this is going to be a really, really interesting trial coming up here. It's going to be a fascinating trial. And I'm hoping that obviously Court TV or some of these other programs get in there and they're able to carry it so we can watch it live, throughout the day. Thank you so much for that consideration. Grateful for that. Okay. What else we got here? Let's talk about Miss Maya, Maya Millete. So I got a text message just briefly from Richard and Mary Chris today. When I checked in with them, they send their love, and they are still searching that one geographic area up near her house, and they're looking for personal items. So every Saturday and Sunday, if you're in the area in Chula Vista, California, and you have some time, please go over to the Facebook page and about missing Maya Millete, okay, who is a mother of three, who vanished January 7th. And here we are in May and still no sign of her. Okay. Chula Vista Police Department is working diligently on her case. Their communication between them and the family is working correctly now. And, kudos to them, as well as, getting the answers that the Millete family, that Maya's sister, Mary Chris, and her brother-in-law, Richard, deserve. That communication is open, and they are talking with each other, and they're working in conjunction with each other now. So please continue to keep them in your prayers. I am curious about how Larry's doing with the children. Larry, if you're listening, I have offered you an opportunity to please come forward and talk on this platform. We certainly would like to hear your side of everything. I would also like to ask you to please reach out to Mary, Chris, and Richard and help find your wife. Okay. Just kind of don't tuck away, don't tuck yourself away, step out into the limelight, take some leadership role here, and, step into the circle to help Maya, to help your wife. Your anniversary just passed. And quite frankly, I think that would probably be a good thing. Okay, so if you want to talk about, your love for her, well, actions speak louder than words. Okay, actions speak louder than words. Thank you, Tim. So you need to step up. Okay, and this is a platform. Again, I invite you on. I'm here every Sunday night and sometimes in between. Like this week was a busy week. Okay, but I'd love to have you on as a guest and to talk about your sweet wife. Okay. So I'm easy to get hold of. Just go into the About section on my YouTube page and send me an email. You'll see it right there. It says email. Send me an email and I'll connect with you. Okay. So one cool thing about Maya, if you didn't already know, this is an amazing human being, okay, with an amazing family. That this family is not going away in any way, shape, or form. In fact, her movement is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. So that said, okay, continue to support them. They have a GoFundMe page. Don't send any money my way. Send it to them. Okay. Put it on the GoFundMe page. Okay. And Dill, if we can find it, or one of our mods, if we can find, put it back up again tonight, that'll be fantastic. This is a woman who has 3 children. And those children need to have some answers about their mom. And so if you can help support this family, continue to do so. I'm not going away, Larry. In fact, the longer you take, the harder I'm going to work. And, I'm 1 for 1 right now with the bear. Okay, so, if you're in my sights, let's have a conversation. Okay, let's have a conversation together, because it's not going to get any better. Okay, at your end. Okay, for if you keep hiding, okay, from the public's view. I mean, we're not saying you did anything. We're just saying that the right thing for a husband to do, okay, is to do something, and that is to get involved in searching for your wife, which you've not done yet. Okay, so that needs to happen. Okay, and if you can do that, I think that would be great. Okay, I think that would be great. Okay. One more. Miss Kelly Brennan. So I had a conversation today with Kelly's boyfriend, Eddie Emerson. And Eddie and I have been communicating probably for about 6 or 7 months behind the scenes. And I invited Eddie on to come talk about it, and to talk about Kelly. If you're not familiar with Kelly's case, Kelly is a free spirit. She's a guitar player that was in Florida, and she basically got into an argument with her boyfriend at the Live in Live Oak, Florida, and depending on who you talk to and depending on what you believe at this point, she just allegedly got into a car and disappeared and evaporated. Okay. Now, that in of itself is strange and is weird, but it wasn't uncommon for her and Eddie, to have this freestyle life. They're both musicians, and what I love about Kelly is she is the type of person that I can tell is just, she's dynamic. She's free flowing. She's unpredictable. Okay? But she's an artist, and that's what makes her creativity come alive. Okay. So I'm going to be focusing on once we get Maya, and now that Daybell's starting to cool up a little, and Barry's going to have some more hearings coming up. The next hearing for him is going to be in August. So the next couple of things coming here are going to be, related for the Morphew case, basically pre-trial stuff. So Barry's going to, spend a summertime in jail, and his attorneys are going to get him a nice suit and put him in a nice suit. So I'm going to shift some thought process. I've got some things coming. I'm on the West Coast right now. I'm headed north, and then probably east, if you know where I'm going, okay, to do some things in Idaho and Utah. And then simultaneously, I'm going to also stay with Maya's case, and then stay and get on heavy into Kelly's case, because I've been working behind the scenes for about 6 or 7 months. Folks don't know anything about it, but today is a perfect example where Eddie and I had a good conversation. So Eddie wanted me to point out a couple of things, okay, about that case. There's a reward of $6,000 for information leading to any answers and or conviction. Okay, and I promised him today that I would mention this to everybody here. Okay, and encourage locals who live in the Live Oak area and the surrounding area, if they would like to help out with searching for her around the Live Oak area. There's an email, and the email is search for Kelly. It's SEARCH, the number 4, Kelly, KELLEY, Brannon, BRANNON @gmail.com. That's search for Kelly Brannon @gmail.com. So if you're interested in helping, send an email to that email address, okay? And then you can, from there, sign up for some searching, okay? And those folks would be grateful. Now, the thing about Kelly. So I did a piece on Kelly a while back. She's a free spirit out of New Hampshire, loves pizza, okay? Loves music, loves animals, loves chickens, okay? Loves, quite frankly, Eddie. Okay? But like Eddie, the two of them have, they had some marital or boyfriend-girlfriend issues that were sometimes volatile. Okay? So before I go, any further on this, what we're looking for is her guitar. She was a left-handed guitar player, and she had a Stratocaster. Okay? So it's a very unique guitar. And after she went missing, her guitar disappeared. Her car was taken back up to her mother's in New Hampshire. Her phone and all of the other items that were connected to her, okay, were in her car. And they were in Florida at the time, where Eddie's truck had a transmission problem. And it was taken to a shop, and so they just had Kelly's car. As a result of after a fight, the information is, and hopefully Eddie will come on and talk a little bit more about it, but he's done so on a couple other channels. You can go see it. And the news just did a piece in Florida on missing unsolved cases, okay, where she allegedly gets into this fight, waits in her car for a little bit, and then decides to go walk away, and apparently makes a phone call and leaves a voicemail on Eddie's phone saying, I'm out of here. And she's not been seen since that time. Okay. And she's basically just vanished off of the face of the earth. So that said, I think it would be really important for all of us in the true crime community to kind of maybe start weighing in a little bit heavier here. Okay. And now I'm not saying that, and by the way, the one thing I learned being in homicide is we had a saying is you don't get to choose your victim. Okay? And that's a true statement. Okay. Because each of these victims and each of these women that we're talking about tonight, each of them has a different personality. Okay? And they each bring a certain light to the world. Okay. But that light is important for all of us potentially, to keep lit, okay, and to tell those stories for these folks. Okay. Kelly's missing out there. Maya is missing right now. Suzanne's body is missing right now. Okay. So Lori Daybell, she's missing up here, but she's not insane. And I don't think she's going to have a diminished capacity. That's going to be a tough argument for the defense, just saying. Okay. I could be wrong, but, the fact that she was able to make all those decisions just kind of takes it to another level, right? So what we can do as a YouTube community and this platform is to help these families and friends find their loved ones. Okay? And I'm committed to do that on this platform. That's the only reason I started this platform, was to make sure that if I have a gift and I can apply that gift into the environment, then that's what I'm going to try to do here. Okay, so that's it. All right, so let's go ahead, Dylan. Let's go ahead and take a couple of emails, and I see that. Let's see here. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm just reading. Dale, let's go ahead and put some questions up here. Let's have a little chit chat here with folks. So, guys and gals, if you have some questions or just something that's on your heart and you want to talk about, let's go ahead and throw them up here. And Echo Lloyd is still missing. Thank you, April. Yes, she disappeared Mother's Day 2020, just like Suzanne. Okay, April, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. And you're right. I need to look into that one as well. I need to take a harder look at that. Annalise, can you please help with the Shelby Campbell case out of Utah? I've had 3 or 4 folks ask about that. Let me take a look at it and see where we're at. Okay. Thank you for bringing it to my attention again. 4 sons, mom. Can you cover the cash case, sibling style? Send me information on that. I've not heard of that one. Did Eddie ever take a polygraph? He said yes, he did. Sarge, he said he took a CVSA. Actually, I asked him that, and he said he passed. Will they delay Chad's trial to wait for Lori? Lisa, that is a super great question, and I think this is a super strategy by the defense to see if Chad is going to also play the same game. Remember, they have the husband and wife, so they can't testify against each other. So if Chad goes first, okay, and Lori doesn't understand, can you just see that conversation taking place? Lori, do you understand the murder charges against you? Huh? Okay, so that's probably where that went. Okay, with the psychologist. And by the way, one of the things that Dodd told me years ago, he says, I learned how to manipulate the doctors. Okay, so she's, she could get an Oscar for this. This could be pretty interesting. Okay, if a person is a psychopath or sociopath, is that different from being mentally incompetent? Well, yes and no. So they can be a sociopath and still be competent to stand trial because they understand the repercussions and the ramifications of committing crimes of right and wrong, but it just didn't fit with their choice of thought process. Okay, a psychopath is somebody who is consciously going to work, making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, putting it into a bag, okay, and hunting people. Dennis Rader from BTK, Bind 'em, Torture, Kill 'em, would fall into that play, okay. But he was also able to hold a dog catcher's job down for almost 25 years. So he was mentally capable of committing crimes and therefore mentally competent, not incompetent. So he'd be a good example of that, of the latter. Thank you for that question. Love it. Duty Ron. Ron, great to see you. Grateful Live. Thank you. Ron, I love Ron. If you haven't had a chance, jump over to his channel as well. Support him. I'm going to have him on as a guest here coming up. We're working on that, timing on this. So Duty Run, love Duty Run. Thank you for being here, brother. Very much. Good friends. Was Barry wearing his wedding ring when he was arrested? That is a great question. I do not have that answer, Kepna. If anybody knows that answer, put it up in the chat and we'll get the answer here. Hey. Will Albee, hi, good evening. Good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Will you have the Cold Case Foundation Coop and the guys back? Yes, absolutely. In fact, they're working with Chula Vista right now on the Maya Millete case. So I have to be, we have to let some of that dust settle so as not to compromise that investigation as it's moving forward. So yes, we will be there. And with the speech with Steve, speech and body language analysis. Yes, we may jump into Lori a little bit more as she goes down the road here with her, other hearings coming up about her diminished capacity. Thank you, Willoughby. Appreciate that. Carrie Mack, have defense lawyers been known to use an ally on social media to gain knowledge or to use knowledge for their case? Hopefully, if they're smart. But if they use my stuff, that'll be a mistake. If they're smart, but the intelligence that they're gathering is not going to impact anything that they're trying to defend, because they're looking at a hard drive by now, actually by this Wednesday, thousands, 10,000 pages of evidence against Barry. If they're spending time on YouTube, they're wasting their time. They got other bigger fish to fry. When can we see the arrest affidavit for Barry? Great question, Don. So the court has given the defense 7 days, if I remember correctly, from the date of the charges. Remember, they tried to argue that there was a 21-day period and that had expired, and therefore, everything kind of slowed down, and they tried to argue that was therefore, where they were going. Barry needs a break here. Cut him loose. So the defense has 7 days to give a response as to why the affidavit should not be released. The prosecution has already waived and said, Your Honor, we're good with it being released into the public. I think we'll see the affidavit right along in line with the prelim. Okay, I think they're going to stall it up to the prelim, because remember, the prelim is just a small, probable cause, enough evidence of probable cause to bind it over to Superior Court. So they're not going to put all the apple juice, on the table that day. God bless you. Thank you so much, Kimberly. You're so kind, so sweet. Have water searches been done for Maya? Kobe. So I reached out to Jared. He is still circling up, and he is hoping that he can pull something off down there, but he can't promise anything right now. They have a very busy schedule, and he would literally have to pull away from something to do this. So let's cross their fingers. And yes, the sheriff's dive team has been out at the golf course and some of the water things, and there are some warriors out there, the paddle warriors, who are working with Maya and her family to do some of those water searches as well. So show up on a Saturday if you're capable and able, and they'll put you to work. If you have that capability, they can use your help. Thank you, Janet. Letitia is pro se right now. She can against request a public defender. Yes, she can. In fact, the court may appoint her one, Janet. So she's representing herself, and as a result of that, sometimes they go cuckoo, i.e. they go down the wrong road, and the court will step in, so they don't actually burn their own bridges. Ted Bundy was a perfect example of that, where he didn't like his attorneys. He fired them a couple times, wanted to represent himself towards the end. And then, of course, we just saw that whack job recently that cut his parents up. He tried to pull the same thing with the Shield and, the wackadoodle. And, of course, the court appointed 2 public defenders to sit at the table with him to kind of keep him out of hot water. But that didn't work real well. Do you think Barry thinks about his Bobcat review? That's a great question, man. That is a great question. I'm sure he is. He's got to be. Thank you, Charlotte. Super sticker. That's a great one. Barry thinking about it. What about the lady who heard a forklift going the night Suzanne disappeared? Yeah, the elderly woman where they dug up all that property. Yeah, she said she heard what sounded like machinery working late in the evening. And certainly does look like that could be a problem here. The one thing about that is the evidence response team, the ERT from the FBI. You saw them out there with sifters, okay? So they were looking for speaking. Yeah, she was looking, for some. Well, Barry claimed to be insane, unaware of his actions, if guilty, of course. Anna, you know what? That could be a play. That could be a play, especially if that affidavit shows how he did it. If we see evidence of mutilation, which it sounds like there is, based on the fact that they charged him of it. So the fact that they charged him means there could be some evidence to show that he could have mutilated her. He's going to have to figure out, okay, where do I go from here? Okay. Another Lori Vallow move, perhaps. We'll see. That's going to be a good one. How can we change the laws? I feel so many women went missing during the pandemic. Husbands say, who knows? It's quite scary. LV, I could not disagree with you anymore. The laws get changed through your legislators. You have to petition your legislators, and just bang on that drum as loud as you can. God bless you, though. Sarge, thank you so much. You're so sweet. You're so good. Love this channel, and I'm so very proud of everything you guys are doing, and the CCF for helping with training the indigenous people and forming a task force. Number one, missing, homicide, rape, etc. Any race in the world. You know what? Thank you so much for those kind words, and what a privilege and honor it's been, to have been selected to train that task force. Is folks, if you're not aware of what Sergeant Melinda is saying here, is the Cold Case Foundation was selected to train the first ever Native American homicide task force to investigate over 1,500 Native American and Alaskan women who have just vanished. And for the first time, it was a presidential initiative where money was put together, and the Cold Case Foundation was brought in. I was honored, and still am honored, to be one of the instructors on cold case homicide investigation, to train the first, at first we had, 25, so we're almost up to about 40 folks right now that we have trained out of the first 50 homicide task force members. So, and we meet on a quarterly basis through Zoom meetings to make sure that things are moving. But the Bureau of Indian Affairs has put together a quite robust database that they're working on right now, and they're going to correlate some of the different cases through all the different reservations across the United States. And they're going to also throw in DNA and CODIS information that will also tie these potential cases together. So it's going to be an exciting time over the next year and a half, and that's called Operation Lady Justice. Operation Lady Justice. Thank you, Sarge, for bringing that to our attention here. What else we got, Dale? Do they look in the dump area for coolers? Why was Barry's truck behind the fire station? If they get, I know they were looking for coolers, and obviously, why his truck was behind the fire station, I don't have that answer. I know Miss Linda over at It's a Crime has some theories in relationship to that about a fire. And that maybe the fire was set to cover up some evidence. So I don't have particular information on that yet. However, we'll have to wait for the affidavit to get that particular answer. I'm sure the PD may have some other thoughts on that. So let's see. AB, you're a great family. God bless you guys. Thank you, AB. We're grateful that you're here and that you're part of it. We're so thankful, very thankful. Okay, Crystal G, hi, welcome. Great to see you. Okay, Darlene, does this go back to the Indian school where all the kids were killed by the Catholics in Dakota? Well, I do not know that answer. I don't know that answer, Darlene, but I can tell you this, that these are recent homicides within the last 10 years. So no, it would not go back that far. There's 1,500. Dillan, take that one. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah, is Barry on suicide watch? Do you know about him being on a hunger strike? You know, Lisa, I know he's on suicide watch. I don't. I've heard different things about a hunger strike. You know, the jail is not the place to do a hunger strike because they'll force feed you. So, you know, he can play the game all he wants, but, you know, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches taste really good with green beans when that's all you have. Okay. And so we'll see. Can you rule out anachylhydrosis as a method of body disposal with Suzanne? You know, anything is possible. Could a body be dissolved? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. So you can't rule it out. You can't rule it in. I also believe that potentially some tools potentially will play into this. Okay, but maybe there's some tools that are going to play, and that also a 50-pound bag of cornmeal will also play for absorption. Okay, in a burlap sack. We'll see how that's going to play. But great question. Thank you so much, Joey. Shout out to Duty Ron. Thank you, Chris, for all you. Shout out, absolutely. Shout out to Duty Ron. Love that guy. He's amazing, amazing. Okay. You and Barry's weight loss and hair dye part of his plan to escape. You know, Sandy, that boy, you know, that would not surprise me. I think that's, you know what, that is a great point. I hadn't even thought of that till you just brought it up right there. Could he be plotting? You know what? What's he got to lose at this point? What's he got to lose? Is he a flight risk? You can bet those deputies better be on their P's and Q's because if he gets out, you know, he's going to go to the mountains, and it'll be an absolute chase if he does escape. Sandy, I love it. Great point. Hope, thank you. Did Suzanne's sister get the statue back? Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. So the other night I mentioned, you know, if Barry didn't put it there, but somehow it just ended up there, yada yada. Maybe somebody moved it from the property. And then somebody said the girls moved it. So I asked initially I said, you know, would you want the statue back? Maybe somebody can get it. And then somebody, hammered me for, I can't believe you said, go steal the statue. I wasn't telling people to steal the statue. Okay, come on. Okay. What I said was, if somebody had put it there, okay, and it belonged to her mother, and that's a very cherished, piece of, her puzzle, then yeah, I mean, go get it. Okay. But don't steal it. I would never encourage anybody to break the law. And I apologize if you felt that's what I was saying. I wasn't. And I'm sorry if I presented it that way. That was not my intent at all. In fact, I finally ended up saying, you know what, leave it alone. Everybody just leave it there. So, but thank you for bringing that to my attention when you did say it, because it did make me think, oh boy, that got read wrong. So I'm sorry. And hope. Okay, bullets. Did you hear anything about suitcase, toolcase in a body, water pond in the Morphew case? So there was one theory early on, right, about the coolers. Okay, that Barry must have done something and put her in a cooler. Okay, and then of course I know there was some medium readings where those types of items were also raised. Okay, now one thing that I learned, and I know, is that there was a 50-pound bag of corn purchased, and Barry used the guise that it's for turkey hunting, okay, cornmeal or corn feed. Okay, now the problem is he had somebody else purchase it for him. Okay, well, as a result of that, okay, we don't know if that's in play or not. Okay, because I did a little research on that, and some of that could also be yours for absorption, and also to help with the decomp process. Okay, so I don't know if the burlap sack is utilized. We'll find out in the affidavit if they found her or if they have something with biological fluid on it. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's a tool. Maybe it's something from the house. Maybe it's from one of the walls. They held that house for 7 days. Okay? That or 11 days, excuse me. That's a long time to hold a home. Okay? That is a long time to spend in that house. That tells me that they crossed the T's and dot the I's in that house, and they did a lot of forensic, searching in there. Probably not only luminol, but blue as well. It's a chemical. So they probably hit it in every way, through sideways. Let's hope. Let's hope. Okay. Let's hope. Next. They use a kind of drone to find Suzanne. I think Cody, early on, they had started to search with drones, as well as obviously search and rescue, dogs, etc. But remember, they also had a variety of other things under surveillance, and they held that surveillance for quite some time. Okay? They held that surveillance for quite some time. Thank you. Great question. Did he purchase a lot of bleach? Employee said, motel smell of bleach. Yes, and I know where he purchased it. Actually, it's chlorine. Okay. Look in Salida. Okay. Happens to be a shop down there that sells pool supplies. Okay. Do you think searching for Suzanne and Anna would be possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. Could he have moved her? Yes. Did he? I don't know. Okay. We definitely know, though, when Andy was there, right? When Andy was there, he didn't let that bobcat go. He drove around for 4 days with that bobcat. So maybe there was something connected to that bobcat. We don't know. We'll find out. Why did it take a year to arrest Barry? Because it's going to take a year to prosecute him, if not longer. So that's a great question, NC Nurse, and thank you for your service. God bless you. Love our nurses. Love our nurses. Will Barry have the right? Will Barry have read the affidavit? Oh, yeah, you can bet. Oh, yeah. That's why he's probably losing weight. Okay. He's sitting there going, holy cow, how did they do this? Okay. How did they do this? Yeah. Yep. Next question. Thank you, Mel. Annalise, I can imagine the pressure you and yours must feel seeing the worst of humanity. Know how grateful we are. Well, you're so kind. You're so sweet. That's, there's a couple of cases that have always stuck with me. Obviously, I had a variety of different things, where, I was accused of all kinds of things, and it's a really horrible feeling when you, as a law enforcement officer, don't get the ability to give your side. Okay. Until it's too late. So there are some things that, there is a lot of pressure. And when I walked out of a bathroom with Matthew Checky, for an example, there were 11 satellite trucks from all around the world. And maybe one day I'll show you the interview I did with Brandon Wilson, where he was sitting. He died on death row. He committed suicide, but I put some people away. And I'm grateful that God gave me the gifts to do it. And then again, if I didn't think you did it, I'm the first one to say you didn't do it. Okay. Or at least I would try to show that you didn't do it. But I always followed the evidence. Always followed the evidence. And that's where we need to go on this thing. Just follow the evidence. But if you killed somebody and I was on your radar, I'm coming. Okay. Sergeant, aloha. Searches on different locations. Yes. Yep. Any searches? Absolutely. They have done a whole bunch of different searches in not only Indiana but also in Colorado on the Morphew case. Let's talk. How involved with his girlfriend was Barry? Well, they were dating for about 4 or 5 months. Okay. And then there was a second one that popped up, but she got pretty smart because she figured out that there was another gal in this one as well. So she pulled out pretty quickly. Okay? And everybody knows who they are. I don't have to name them. Everybody knows who they are now. Okay? I put a couple of tweets out about 3 months ago about one of them. Go back to my Twitter feed and you'll see that I talked about some Indians. Okay. Kitty says, bingo for 100. Do you think both Melanie will, or Melanie will be arrested? Man, you know what? What was interesting in the charges is that verbiage where the DA said, or others. Okay. When I saw or others, like you, I said, oh, oh man, who's or others? So we don't know. Or they're going to need her, give her immunity. They're going to need her as a witness. Okay, they're going to need her as a witness. I saw this question, Chris, what inspired you? What? And your wife to get your free time to help people in need. Duke and the locksmith. You know what, Duke? I appreciate that question, and I think it's what we know. And I've being involved in the Cold Case Foundation, which I have for many, many years, and other cases. I just thought, this was a natural extension to keep going. And quite frankly, I didn't think the YouTube thing was going to be anything. I mean, that's not why. In fact, the YouTube thing, I was asked to come on Mike's show at PE. And I told them right from the get-go, I'm going to lower your property value. And then I learned something, that this dynamic here is really a very fascinating dynamic for law enforcement to embrace. And I think they're coming to embrace it. And I think, Maya's case is a good example where we can do good collectively. I think Suzanne's case is a good example where we can do good. I mean, you've got, if we think about this really collectively as a community, all these other YouTube channels, Duty Run, Unmasked, PE, Tyson, 10 to Life, and It's a Crime. All of these platforms came at these cases from different angles. Okay. And it just so happened that, Tyson got that conversation with Barry. Okay. Well, that was a paradigm shift for law enforcement because they couldn't go get that interview with him. He'd lawyered up, but a citizen walked up and just started chatting with him and recorded him and put it up on YouTube. When I saw that interview, with my background, and Mike, I think, would concur, and Ron and others, we immediately saw red flags. I mean, it's like, holy cow, maybe this is the guy. And, from there, it just, kept on going and kept on going. And so, and then you've got, guys and gals out there that are still doing it. I mean, you've got, I love this Gonzo. I love that guy. He's out there just knocking them down, and he talks real. He's an artist, and that's what he does. That's what he does. So anyway, that's I hope that helps on this Sunday night. We really are grateful for each of you for being here in our family and in our group here. If you if you would continue to subscribe, we'd be grateful for that. And then simultaneously, if you would share these, cases, that'd be great. And yeah, Kristen Smart, I just saw that note just come up. Good. That is another good point. By the way, I'm up in the San Luis Obispo area now, and I saw her poster just by a market just the day before yesterday. And to your point, Suzanne Thomas puts this up here. Also, the Kristen Smart case got a life breathed into it from a blog. That's right. That's exactly right. And so social media is changing the dynamic on how citizens can help live investigations and real investigations. So, we're doing good here. We're doing good here. The key for us is not to get in the way. That's the key. Okay. But we can still, do good and not speculate, but only stick to factual information and then put it out there. Funds for Chewy, toys for Buddy. Lee, thank you, Barb. You're so sweet. And Buddy, what a nut job. Where is he? Bud, come here. Oh, he's sleeping. Karen just said he's sleeping, so I don't want to wake him up. But we're so grateful to each of you tonight. And Justice, thank you. Super Sick, thank you. We hope that you're having fun with us. We've got some great things coming. I'm headed north and then a little bit east. I kind of want to figure out some of the things going on over there. And I'm also going to be looking up some other cases, and some of that was just brought here tonight that you brought to my attention. I'm grateful for that. I apologize in advance that I can't get to all of them. I try to help the best that I can, and or at least send a couple of referrals to like Cold Case to help out in that piece of the pie as well. Okay. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here on this Sunday evening. Always be good to each other. Let's take care of each other. And next week is going to be a great show as well. And so thank you for everything. Thank you, all of our mods. Thank you, all of our members. We're grateful, grateful, grateful. Have a great week. Keep smiling. And have a great Memorial Day. And God bless you, families whose loved ones have given the ultimate sacrifice. We're thankful for that. Thank you. Dylan, take us out.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in a while.